amending in his legislation this ability?
We're in some agreement on the idea of 20 days before the election for early voting. Now, and we've expressed some other concerns to Senator Seitz that go along with the early voting. He also, in his bill, has some leeway for additional locations. However, one of our concerns about the way that that's crafted in that bill is that if there's a tie vote at a Board of Elections for an additional location, up to 4, or for where that location will be, that a tie vote would not go to the Secretary of State and it would simply fail. And what we really don't want to see is partisan bickering going on at boards of elections, or partisan maneuvering where a tie vote could be set up to minimize access to voting by keeping the number of locations down to 1, because there was a real or perceived disagreement over how many locations or the number or the actual location of the early voting site. We think that voters want anyone who's an election official, and I think they would probably like the political parties too, to focus on very fair, straight down middle of the road election administration that's not designed to benefit one party or another, but simply to allow the voters to freely express themselves as to what they want from their government.
Did you make any changes in here to the homeless population? There have been some discussions as to how they should be able to vote because of their special situation.
With the homeless populations, we've really been governed by court decisions on that, so we didn't. I don't believe we've mentioned anything in particular about that. One of the joys of election administration, because there's been so much litigation in recent years, is that the body of law that we follow is not simply laid out in the statute or in rules or in directives. The directives attempt to embody statutes, any rules, and any court decisions to ensure that the boards of elections and the state of Ohio is following the law as it's given to us by the legislature and the courts.
Are any of these recommendations, besides the study groups, do any of them have financial implications?
I think the biggest ones had to do with eliminating so many different special elections. And also, we did achieve an amendment in the budget bill in 2007 to allow boards of elections to purchase equipment or supplies through state term contract. And that's been available to the boards for a few years. But we think, our thought is to further emphasize that and create perhaps some buying pools for boards of elections. What we try to do is to save costs with this.
How much would permanent and legal voting investigators cost?
Oh, the permanent and legal voting investigators, I think it would depend upon, I don't have a figure for you, but I can have someone get back to you.
What about the interest on political funds account? Are there any other states doing this? And have you estimated how much money you would raise from this office through that?
No, I think this is something that we had discussions with Senator Seitz about, and he's also interested in it. Many attorneys are familiar with what they call the IOLTA accounts, which as an attorney holds money in a client's money in trust in their trust account, the interest that's earned on that account, which these days is not a lot in bank accounts, goes into this IOLTA fund that's used for indigent defense. I think it may be difficult to estimate that at this point in time. Having filed a lot of campaign finance reports myself as an attorney over the years, when a campaign committee or a political action committee earns, I believe, over $100 a year in interest, it's then required to make a filing with the IRS for income earned. So obviously that would have to be looked at. There would be some committees, I think, that would be very happy not to have to file with the IRS. But again, the committees wouldn't be keeping the interest that they earned on the funds that they raise.
But these are also political action committees too, and some committees like the governor's or Senate candidates have lots of money sitting in there.
That's what they like to have, yeah.
Exactly. And, so I could see this generating a lot of money for your office. And also, wouldn't there be, do you anticipate any backlash because some candidates would say, hey, this helps in my efforts to fundraise, this is my pot of money and I should be able to earn interest on it.
There'll be very few candidates because it's a very small number of candidates who are even having to look at having several bank accounts because of the FDIC limits. So I think all in all, when you look at the number of candidates there are around the state, and there are a great number, it's very few who this will actually have an effect on. But it could be money that would be helpful to save money for the rest of the state, for the taxpayers.